Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today we have two professors and international masters of chess. Ken Regan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Great to have you as always. And Dan Fleetwood, welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi, Sasha. Hi, Ken. I'm delighted to be here.
Mhm.
Excellent. Always great to have you, Dan. And just a couple of words about this. At least it's my impression of the candidates. I'm talking about men, opens section, if you wish. If you will take away Sindarov with his incredible score and incredible play, and leave the other seven men and their results against each other, it's rather, I should say, quite mediocre tournament. They are playing against each other, some win, some lose, some make draws, and it's a very unremarkable story. Sindarov makes all the difference. Do you agree with me, Ken?
I think so, and I think I may further say, when I cover Sindarov's last two wins, that even they are not very inspired.
True, true. I think his opponents play rather unremarkable games and didn't use all their chances. And they couldn't offer resistance, which was due in this position.
Yeah.
That's my impression. Dan, what do you think?
I mean, he got off to such a hot start that just the fact that he's building on that lead is quite impressive. I mean, if the candidates ended today, I mean, he would be a prohibitive favorite against Gukesh, which doesn't mean that he would win, but he would certainly be a clear favorite.
Yes, yes.
But you can't say that Caruana could have arranged to be just 1 point behind if he'd drawn his last two lost games.
That's very
It'd
true.
still be a horse race. So
Yeah, you could really see him kind of sink into his chair. When he, when he just collapsed. So
yeah.
it's a pity.
Caruana is very well prepared, and if you would take his results against all except the very, very top players, he's very efficient, he's playing really well, and he's using his opening preparations and solid play. But against top people, it seems to me that it's not enough based on the results. And also he has developed, I think, kind of a habit that he is emotionally not prepared to fight on the very, very top level. Although his match against Carlsen is really something else. But again, maybe that's just one of the occasions where he was able to fight the top player and quite successfully. He hasn't lost even a single game against Carlsen in regulation time. So it's kind of, I'm very unsatisfied with Caruana's performance in this tournament and his results against top players.
Yeah, we are talking about someone who, by rating and I think intrinsically, reached a peak 10 years ago.
This is true.
2014,
That's true.
2016, 2018.
That's true.
And it was quite a peak.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. So basically, this Nakamura most likely is playing his last candidates tournament, and Caruana is some kind of a decline, whether you like it or not. Seems to me we have to look at probably next generation, and obviously Sindarov is the bright example of that so-called next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. But the draw for Sindarov after Sadarov, Pragnananda, Bluebaum, Keimer, Erigaisi, let's not forget him. So those
And Gukesh is in that generation too.
Yes, that's right.
Actually, he's the youngest in that generation.
Yeah.
So, well, maybe we'll take a look at a few games and also from
Yes,
women's
and
section.
I propose to begin with the women's, just to mention that there it's a fascinating horse race. Vaishali is 1/2 point ahead of the crowd by virtue of winning this game last time against Divya Deshmukh. Game with some brilliancy to it. She also, and the interesting about Vaishali is that she started slowly with 4 draws and a loss, but now wins in 3 of her last 4 games.
Absolutely
So, a game
remarkable.
is, sorry, and then a draw in round 10 against Anna Muzichuk, which was a good draw. But let me go to this game. Get rid of that menu part here. So, this is the way I used to play as white, fianchettoing the queen's bishop early. I wouldn't play c4 so quickly. Double fianchetto, I used to play that too. And I don't know how she does it. She achieves my dream position after 14 moves, especially when black plays f5. I mean, I think you really should fianchetto your king's bishop in response to the queen bishop fianchetto. So I enjoy having the influence on the long diagonal. And she just plays very simple
Let me
chess.
ask you, instead of a5, wouldn't it be simpler to play knight e4 and maybe even f5 to follow knight e4?
Yes, well, that is what happens in the game. It happens at a time, though, when I'm very glad to face it.
I see. Excellent.
Yep.
So here we go, knight e4. So capture, and then knight e5. See, white has this nice outpost as well. And black's pawn on e4 just is not supported as well as white's pawn on e5 would be. So f5, there we have it, though. I mean, yes, engine's best move, but I love having this kind of position as white.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's
I
only
mean, the wrong pawn is supporting the pawn on e4. So
But you see, if you would play knight e4 a move earlier and f5, then when knight takes on e4, you had choice to take f pawn to e4, and your position in the center would be probably much stronger.
that is quite right. Yeah. So, so I actually would play queen c2 in this position. It's not. It does allow black to play c5. I play rook d1, and I play in the center. I'm reserving the right to play f3 at some point, crowbarring open lines for my bishops. But the computer actually likes f3 right away, which probably needs some calculation. But Vaishali played f4. I mean, which isn't
it's
bad.
principled.
Yeah, it's principled in some ways. Now she's got a lock on these squares. On the other hand, black got an important breather. But now she really justifies her play on the queen side. So black mixes it a little on the queen side, maybe inadvisedly. White's advantage is up to half a pawn. So black is already in the one mistake serious issue zone. Should play c5. c5 is a very principled move here to try to fix a weakness on c4. But played knight d7, I guess preparing c5 in some way, or maybe having visions of pressuring the queen side with knight b6. But it just hung a pawn.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah. So now white. So black does get a knight to d3. So that may have been part of what was going on in the calculations here. I guess I should point out that that white can play knight takes a5, but it gives black, piece play, and probably will recover the c4 pawn, and white's a pawn will be weak, extra pawn, but not the greatest pawn in the world. Now queen d4, I don't really count that as a mistake. So let's ignore some of the computer annotations. It's very principled, straightforward play by white to mass up in the center. And here is the serious error by by Divya Deshmukh. She should follow through by taking on d5 so that the knight on c3 is supported by the bishop, and at least have that to counter white's extra pawn with. But I don't know, dreaming of a kingside attack here, it's a little bit. Now comes knight t3, but not supported by the bishop. So he takes d5 really was a consequent move.
Yeah, that would have been fine if white didn't just chop it off.
Right. Yeah. So this is nice, and white again. Queen takes d3 is the automatic move, but put the pedal to the metal there. So black decides to chop off something in return. So at least hoping to be able to block those pawns. But now comes a very nice power maneuver to bulldoze the obstacles to those pawns. Plus, the real static feature of this position is that now that the center is open, black's rook on g6 is marooned. It cannot come back into the game via f6 after white moves our queen. And so this is just going to be, you mass your pieces in the center, black is missing a rook to defend with, and this eventually falls apart. So h5, queen d6, d7, and the nice move.
Yeah.
Now black's queen is trapped next move, or black captures the rook and white gets a new queen. So Divya Deshmukh gave up. Nice snappy game. Okay, let's see a win by Sindarov now. Let's see Sindarov's most recent 2 victories. And this was yesterday's game against Praggnanandhaa. And a really hard game to figure out because it was booked for 20 moves. And then 2 moves later, Praga's lost.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, you
do all of that work and then poof.
Yeah, well, we'll look at the clock times and see how long Praggnanandhaa knew it was booked. So I of course don't know much about this opening family.
No, this is just chess.
Okay.
Nothing special about this opening at all.
Yeah, except
other
for
than this. I mean G5. Come on, this is just straight out of a computer.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Straight out of comp, but straight out of computing a ton. But this actually is a piece sacrifice. So white's bishop is now officially trapped, but white's going to get a bunch of pawns and lay open black's king for it. So here we go. So now white's bishop is truly trapped, but we get some wood for it. And this is, supposedly the computer's best move. Otherwise, I mean, you can't just take the knight because white's threatening to fork black's king and queen. But you open up the line. Now you take the knight. Okay, so let's see. Count them pawns, 7 versus 5. One of black's will probably fall though. So f4, h3, and now here is the kind of the first deviation, technically book still. Both players will use 30 minutes. So they were, so the usual course in this position has been for white to castle. Why not? Get a nice threat of mate on the F file. So rook d1 but rook d1 has to be considered equally natural. You gain a tempo. But now maybe here is the move that threw Pragg out of preparation. And the other thing to notice is that it took Pragg a half an hour to decide on the queen move, queen e7 versus queen e8. So Pragg is definitely thinking for himself. And now g3. So I don't know if g3 was preparation, but it's a really interesting and slow concept. I mean, I would play castles in a heartbeat to open up lines against black's king.
And if the pawn takes g2, then you would play rook f2, right?
Right, yep. So, and then the computer probably sees perpetual check 10 moves down the line. But this g3, so it needs a lot of computation. The computer momentarily thinks black gets the advantage with bishop g7. You really have to see that moves like this, where
Bishop G4, yeah?
it's possible that black could get a dangerous initiative on the light squares. Rook D4 and then F5. White gets to play F5 and cut black, fend black off for a while. But Bishop D7 is the move to make in this position, but not the way the game went. So Pragg captured, and probably expecting white to capture with a pawn, but white castled. All right, rook H6. Now rook takes F4 check, and here is the first critical juncture of the game. So Pragg needed to play King G7, and it's weird. You worry that this is giving white check, but in some positions the king on G7 defends H6. So that, for instance, if white plays rook D F1, then black hasn't put the bishop on an exposed square. That's maybe really the story of this position. So you'd be deadly frightened about white playing rook F7 check here, but the computer simply says, rook F7 is a threat, and I'm going to bring my rook out this way. So, but over the board, this must be terrifying. So that's probably why Pragg played King G8, now rook F1. And now, however, though, the key square that black isn't guarding anymore is F6, okay, or H6, or the threat of pieces coming in. So in fact, that's worth backing up to. If black had played King G7, rook DF1, and A5, and then white plays rook F6, well, black can ignore it, actually.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Whereas now, looking at it with the game, with the king on G8, rook DF1, if black plays A5, rook F6, and then tries rook A6, then, well, this is a check. A very annoying check.
It's not looking good.
It's taking over F7 with check. So it's actually also because you're giving white some disposable checks. So anyway, so then the losing move is bishop D7, and this is just a miscalculation. So white plays rook F7. Okay, black has to chop it. Otherwise, white just student body forward with the rook 1 F6 and eventually mate in the corner. So the problem for black is that white is going to be able to win the bishop with a check on the second rank. So either from playing queen if black goes king G6, is queen F6 check and queen E7, or in the case of king G7, now you can't hold on to your rook and stop queen E7 check at the same time.
Right.
So this is material advantage for white. And the only thing is, can black keep white's king penned in and get some compensation? But the really interesting thing is, no, white can actually stop black's rook from getting to B6 and down in certain lines by playing A4. I mean, that is A4.
Isn't that nice?
It's nice. It's not the only move to keep white's advantage, according to the computer.
That's pretty.
It's especially principled. And now black's rook did, well, let's see. So what if black's rook now had gone to B6 here? Let's say we're just going to chop that, and then take this. And see, the problem is either you're obstructing the F-file or you're losing that pawn with check. So there's really just no way for black to play. So this already, once you play rook H7 in this position, it's close to resignable. So I even got the pawn for good measure. So I ate that pawn, bring up the king, in many positions. White can't take on E3 because white gives check and capture E3, and the king and pawn ending is easily winning. And in this position, once it got to here, Praggnanandhaa had enough. So it resigns. So,
Goodness.
yeah, a very strange game. And Sindaro's win against Wei Yi was also, a position where Wei Yi was just psyched out. I'll cover it if I have time, but I absolutely also must cover the amazing ending to Fabiano Caruana's game
yeah,
against Anish Giri. This is the game that
yeah.
really kills Caruana's hopes. Okay, we play the usual tabia of a Gioco Piano. Many ways to play this position. White decides not to make luft for his own bishop right away, so it's going to preserve the bishop by bringing it around via b5. And now d4, white's advanced in the center, but black is very solid. Okay, the bishop comes back to d3 instead of coming around via a4. So black got the f4 outpost. Fine,
Yep.
probably should be judged equal here, right? I don't know how much this is
Yep.
booked.
Yep.
The players,
Absolutely.
Giri,
It's easier to play with black though, with f4 knight. It's only threats and certain lines available. I don't know what white could do to complicate the game or some initiative or anything.
yeah, I'll agree with that. And the other thing is, often in these positions, white has invested some time on the queen side to be able to mount an offensive there. But that just is not happening in this position.
Instead, white's okay, but I mean, the position is just very passive for white here. I mean, you really have to hope that black goes wrong.
Yeah, I guess so. And the bishop on a7 is very nice influence. Yeah. And it is even nicer influence after white decides the kitchen is a little too hot in the center. So on the other hand, positionally, it makes sense with white's light square bishop gone, put the pawns on light squares. So, and now neutralizing black's bishop. And
is taking with the pawn forced here?
Well, it's funny actually. If you take with the, let's see what happens if you take with the queen, because that's the most optically satisfying move.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is black really coming here? Is this really anything? I mean, the computer says half a pawn advantage to black. Do I believe it? What if I just take and do this? Well, you have to have a strategic sense. I guess black's rooks are working much better than white's rooks in this position.
Yeah, I mean, that looks, what, equal over plus for black.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still might have taken that versus having those double pawn. I just don't like the double pawns in this position because it cuts the board in half.
Yeah, and that absolutely is the theme of the ending of the game. So white has this now. E4 is a weakness, but white can dream about doing things. But first, black gains some space on the queen side. And it's really interesting. Black takes over the a5. Yeah, white, trying to play on the king side, but white's position lacks the rook lift, rook e3, g3, which would be good to have in this position.
Right. So, pawn on e3 is just a bone in white's throat.
Yeah. But no, so here's the thing. Black is able to get the initiative on the queen side. White decides to defend very passively. In fact, white's knight on h4, which you can equate with white's knight on f5, is going to wind up on b1 in this position. It is white's knight on f5. That's going to wind up on b1 not too long from now. So black has his queenside initiative. White tries to defend it, but you don't want black's queen to come in necessarily. So a little bit of tacking around, and here white should have captured and then forthrightly played on the queen side. And there are probably some positions where white loses stuff on the queen side, but can give perpetual check. Something like that.
I guess another idea here was to trade rooks and then play queen g3, hoping that you can get up something on the king side. But
yeah,
king f3. Queen f3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably good enough for a draw.
Yeah, I mean, maybe buried in these lines are probably some perpetual check. But instead, white decided to bring the knight back for defense. So h6, I don't know what that's for. But here we go, knight e1. Capture, knight c2. Sorry, knight's going to wind up on c2, not b1, I guess. Now queen d3 is just the defensive posture. Now, important to note, there's no increment in the men's candidates. So Caruana really only had 5 minutes for 6 moves. And White's e4 is a weakness, b3 is a weakness, so White's hoping to cover these weaknesses. But White's knight can't defend d4. You know, you'd like to, if White could move the knight on to d2, maybe White would be okay in this position. But knights don't move like that. So White tries to get rid of the rooks. Oh, yes, so it's a1. So the ultimate abasement of the knight.
Well, if you think about this improvements, knight from f5 travel all the way to a1, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Now c5 is not a mistake. Ignore that it's colored orange. This is just hash table effects of stockfish at different depths. So ignore that question mark. It's not a bad move. So now, I don't know, White, I guess, was dreaming of Nigel Short King March. I don't know what King G3 was for, but it's going to get White's king in trouble. Maybe, well, so the computer wants White. So what's really amazing here, actually, this is, again, an amazing position. The computer says that White should capture on c6. That looks catastrophic, right? I mean, you're
good Lord.
Yeah, but b4.
I guess the idea is the knight gets back into the game,
and Black's b4 is weak.
Yeah.
So the computer actually thinks that any other move besides capturing is as bad as King g3. So I'm surprised though that, you know, am I surprised that Black's position is so good? Well, Black's leaking in through the A file. So okay. So now here's the other thing. It's White is gonna get something on the f5 square, but it's going to be an invitation to walk the plank. Okay, so here we go. King g4, and now who's hunting whom here? White activates, and now f5 check.
Oh,
okay, but this is just a setup for really one of the most brilliant move of the tournament. It's obscured. So what do you do after White captures on f5? We ask the audience.
Good question.
Yeah, there's like a bishop h5 coming.
Yes, and the bishop h5 is going to come thanks to this move.
Oh yeah, that's
brilliant move. After which Caruana resigned, and the really amazing thing is this is somewhat of a deep echo of the other game that we've seen. Is if you capture, there's this e4, which is like an echo of the g4 move
evil
we looked at last week, and now Queen g5 mate is coming.
Yep, unavoidable.
So that's the fault here, and otherwise, so King f3 gets pronged by e4 check. And then after this, now h5, and White cannot hang on to his queen. Right. So this is mate. So brilliant game. Brilliant finish anyway. But kind of a strangely played, aimlessly played game by Caruana. It must be said.
Yeah, he's played so many of those Italian games that it's unusual to see him get that lost that early in the position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll just close with a quick mention of this, that this was a really interesting juncture in this game where, sometimes the threat really is better than its execution. White has an advantage if White is able to play enough developing moves to counter Black's attempt to take over squares like g4 and c4. So what's interesting is that White's capture on f6 actually just gives Black a later tempo to hit that bishop. And White now loses control over the position. And the other move where White underestimated the danger is in this position, what white needs to do is play h4 so that bishop g5 will enable putting some pressure on black's king side that might make up for the loss of the e4 pawn. Whereas the h3 move is just too timid and doesn't oppose what black wanted to do. And this just became dreadful so now the bishop has to retreat meekly to h4 and is just going to be out of play, whereas on g5 it would be out of play. And what white should have done here is bit the bullet and sacked the exchange. White does
Rook
so
takes
later,
d4. Yeah.
but without as much influence over the game. Actually, I'm sorry, it was in a different variation that white could have done so.
Mm.
So, black just rips white apart in this position. So, got two passed pawns. There's no mate.
Oh,
And so now, so f5. So this is ripping white apart because once with the second rank exposed, black just clamps down to the seventh rank, and white cannot prevent a fatal check on d1 after c2 is played. So white gave up. Okay, all right. So that's the story from the candidates.
Also have the exciting ending, except that Sindarov is already and start preparing to the match for the World Championship and bearing some catastrophe, which is very difficult to imagine the way he plays. I think he can roll a few more draws and just clinch the first prize.
Right. I mean, +6 is amazing. I mean, usually +4 wins, +3 at least a tiebreak in the game. So
+6 and counting.
And counting, yeah.
That would be probably the greatest ever result in candidate tournaments of all time. What Sindarov demonstrated.
Well, I don't know. That's a strong statement, but it sure would be fun to go back and look and see who did better.
Well,
At least in the modern era of the candidates, it's the best I can remember. You would probably have to go back to, like, I don't know, maybe the 50s and 60s.
yeah, I would make mention of Michael Tal result
Yeah, sure.
in Yugoslavia in '59, probably 20 out of 28. That's kind of awesome result.
Exactly.
Yeah, because Keres he trailed Tal, I think, a point and a half. If it wouldn't be for Tal's spectacular result, Keres would definitely be first. 18 and a half out of 28. I think it's a fantastic result, but with Tal, 20 out of 28, impossible to comprehend, really. Very strong field, of course.
Well, I have to say that in this tournament, the person that Sindarov is reminding me of is more Carlsen than anyone else. So
yeah,
just really solid, taking advantage of others' mistakes and not missing too many chances. I mean, he could have been at +7 with, with just a little bit, a little bit more patience in the game where he traded queens into a drawn ending instead of keeping the attack with black. But still, I mean, that's a minor bobble along the way.
That's right.
yeah, that's right. He could have even had one more victory. Which is amazing.
Yeah, he had a dominating position. Was that against
Wei Yi.
Prague, or who was that against?
I think against Wei Yi. I'd have to look.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
for sure. Anyway, it was the position where he should have played Queen B7 with just a complete bind on the queen side, and instead the game petered off into. But I mean, if that's the worst mistake that he makes in the tournament, that will have been one heck of a tournament.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's one mistake in 10 games. Rather than that mistake, he
Yeah,
played spectacularly well. Game. I don't know what rating he's going to have after the tournament, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Do you have a performance rating for him, kind of in hand, Ken, or?
Oh, I don't. I think I saw a chart that it was 3,000, right? Around 3,000.
Holy. Woof.
on Twitter. Yeah, that's what it would
That's
be.
like
But
Caruana St. Louis.
yeah, let's see. I mean, actually, you know what? we're not on. So let me look at my screening. By the way, the screening's completely normal. The field is a little bit up. So, you know, for accuracy, it's a little bit, you know, above the mark, even with some fairly high-profile blunders. But let's see. I calculate the diff. So Sindorov has a diff of plus 234 right now. So I add that to his 2745, and we
That's
get
right around 3,000.
29. Yeah, right around 3,000.
Tom, if it would be
Rest of-
online tournament, somebody would accuse
Mhm.
the rating differences
Yeah.
is incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, heck, I remember when Stockfish was only a lowly 3,000.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
That's right.
One of my published papers sort of leans on that. 2008. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is in relation to Ribka before Ribka 3. Yeah. So.
So we're looking forward to the end of this tournament. A women's section could become very interesting. I think all of them, except maybe this, whoever in the last place is tennis player. I think all
There's also
seven
the European.
chances still have, believe it or not. But
Mhm.
we'll see how it will end. In the meantime, thank you so much for today's
Okay.
program. And see you next week, same place, same time, and we will have results.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dan. Good to see you. Yep. Bye.
All right.
Thanks. Okay.